Hello, good day to one and all. This is Miss A. Krishna Sundar, Assistant Professor, Department of English, KAHM Unity Women's College, Mancheri. Today, we are going to discuss one of the most popular poems written by W.H. Auden, and the title of the poem is Funeral Blues. So, before we start with, here is W.H. Auden. Now, moving on to the biography of the writer, his full name is Winston Hugh Auden, and he was born in 1907 in York, England. He is an English poet who later became an American citizen. He traveled to different parts of the world, including Iceland, China, and many other South Asian countries. It was in the year 1939 that he moved to US, and in the year 1946 he became an American citizen. His love of music and language is very much visible in all of his poems. His first book was published in the year 1930, and this was titled as Poems. He worked as a tutor and he taught in different schools. He had a long-term relationship with Christopher Isherwood, with whom he had collaborated for many of his works. He later had another relationship with Chester Kalman, and this was a long term homosexual relationship. He even named this relationship as a marriage. He has written around 400 poems, and there are 7 long poems. Years later, he married Erika Mann, who is a daughter of Thomas Mann, the famous writer. He wintered in New York and summered in Austria, and he died in Austria at the age of 66. Moving on to his writing style, his first collection was titled as Poems. His poem, The Age of Anxiety, won the Pulitzer Prize. He was an influential and revolutionary writer, and his style was basically satirical and ironical. He has touched a number of themes within his writings like politics and religion, and this has indeed landed him into a lot of troubles. His poems became popular after his death, and many started imitating his style. So here again you can see a couple of pictures where you can find Auden with Isherwood, Kalman, and his wife Erika Mann. Moving on, we can see his poems had a lot of themes embedded in them, and most of them were considered as obscure poems. Now, obscure means something that is very difficult and complex to comprehend. Now, ranging from traditional ballads to 20th century modernist writing, his poetry actually looked into different phases of writing. The themes included politics, love, morality, religion, etc. So, moving on to this poem, Funeral Blues. Now, this is the entire poem. You can see there are 4 stanzas and we have quatrains. Now, the first 2 stanzas, Auden here talks about the everyday things and everyday life. Whereas when we move on to the 3rd and 4th stanzas, you can see that he starts describing cosmic kind of things. He gives cosmic reference, which is in a way a contrasting topic in connection with the first 2 stanzas. The entire poem runs with the same theme. It is all about death, loss, and grief, but the first 2 stanzas are directly connected with everyday life, whereas the last 2 stanzas are connected with cosmic references. So, moving on to the composition history, this poem first appeared in his own play, which is titled as The Ascent of F6. The other title of the very same poem is Stop All the Clocks. Now, this was published in 1938. Now, it was later published as Funeral Blues with this particular title in the year 1940 in the book Another Time. Now, this poem attained wide popularity when it was read in one of the Hollywood movies, which was released in the year 1994. And the title of this famous movie is Four Weddings and a Funeral. So this became a part of the culture, and people started reciting this after this was performed as a reading within the movie. So now what is this poem about? Now it is all about grief and isolation. It is about the death of a close one. Now it can be the death of a friend, a close relative, it can be the death of a partner, or it could be anyone. It is about how personal feelings confine you to your world and keeps you away from the exterior world. It could be the dead end of a romantic relationship, or maybe it can be even a real-time death. It also talks about the world's indifference to personal loss. This is written in iambic pentameter and it goes like a song. So let's start with the poem now. So here we start this with the first stanza. Stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone, prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone, silence the pianos and with muffled drum bring out the coffin, let the mourners come. So this is the first stanza, and you can see how the rhyme scheme goes. Telephone, bone, drum, come. So the first stanza goes in a narrative style, and you can see it begins like this: stop all the clocks. And then he says, cut off the telephone. So there are two everyday things which he is trying to bring into this context. One is clock and the other one is a telephone. So as we look into the title, we understand this is all about something which is closely connected with death. So the title here is Funeral Blues. So you might know blues, this is actually an informal expression to suggest something that is melancholic or something which is actually giving you some kind of disillusionment or disappointment. So funeral blues here is actually used in the form of a pun. A pun is in fact a joke which can be exploited with different possible interpretations. So this could be identified in different ways because it's something directly connected with death, and this is all about how the poet feels about this particular death. So this is how he begins: stop all the clocks, cut off the telephone. So he's asking to stop all the clocks. In a metaphorical way, he is asking to stop the time. Cut off the telephone. So again, in a suggestive way, he is asking to cut off all the possible communication levels. Prevent the dog from barking with a juicy bone. So prevent the dog from barking can again suggest something in connection with noise. The poet is not in a mood to listen to the different noises around, or maybe the different voices around. He doesn't want to listen to any of these things, and therefore he says stop the time, stop communication, and ask the dog to stop from barking. He doesn't want to listen to any voice or noise. Silence the pianos and with muffled drum bring out the coffin. Let the mourners come. Now silence the pianos. Now piano here stands as a representation of celebration, some kind of party or some kind of feast. So piano here stands for celebration or something that is enjoyable, and therefore he wants to silence the pianos and with muffled drum. Muffled means in a very quiet way. and in a very quiet way bring out the coffin. Let the mourners come. So, those who want to lament the death of this person, let them come and mourn. But make it without any noise. He wants to make it in a very quiet form. So, if you look at the first stanza, he is connecting this death or his personal loss with everyday life. You can say clock, telephone, dog, piano, all the common everyday things which are coming together. So he says, stop the time, cut off the communication levels, prevent the dog from barking by giving something for that. Maybe you can give a juicy bone so that the dog will stop barking. Stop all the celebrations and bring out the coffin and let the mourners come. So this goes like an elegy, but it is not purely an elegy because his mourning is not something which is very personal. He is actually asking the entire world to mourn along with him. So, in a way, this is hyperbolic because it is too much exaggerated. Because if there is a personal loss, the world is not going to cry with you. But here, the poet expects that. The poet wants the entire world, the entire society to cry with him for his personal loss. So he's actually trying to plead peace. And we find that art gets mixed with modernity here for more complexities. Modernity means he brings in the context of all modern stuff here, like clocks, telephones, dog, piano, coffin. So, coffin is something which is suggestive of death. So, he is actually trying to make his personal loss something more general in nature. So, the cause is unimportant. So, nobody is asking the question like who died or how did this person die. Nobody is interested in this question. So, the cause here is unimportant. The fact is more important. The fact means whoever dies, the world will not wait for them. The world will continue in its way. The world will continue in the very same pattern, and the world or the society is not going to stop for the individual loss. So, this kind of a greater universal fact is emphasized here, and therefore the cause is unimportant. We do not want to know who died, and we need not be concerned about how this person died because a universal fact is being uttered here that individual loss will not be taken into consideration by the world or the society around us. So, moving on. Let aeroplanes circle moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message, he is dead. Put crepe bows round the white necks of the public dows, like the traffic policemen wear black cotton gloves. So the poet here is very unhappy because he finds that nobody is respecting his memory or loss. His loss is very, very personal. It is an individual kind of loss, and the society is not there to share this loss with him. So he says, let aeroplanes circle, moaning overhead, scribbling on the sky the message, he is dead. So this is again very, very hyperbolic, a very exaggerated kind of disillusionment that he is talking about. He says, let the aeroplanes scribble in the sky the message. And what is the message? He is dead. So from this line, we understand that the one who died is a man. So the gender is revealed here. He is dead. So now there is an official announcement. So since the official announcement has come, he is actually letting the world know that this man is no more. So he's actually requesting for a public kind of funeral. And he's also considering the dead man as a noble and valued individual. But at the same time, the society or the world is not stopping to mourn the death of this person. And this is what makes the author more annoyed. And now he says, put crepe bows around the white necks of the public doves. So imagine public doves. Imagine these birds being tied with crepe boughs just because they should represent the loss of this dead person. So this is again an exaggerated way to mourn. Let the traffic policemen wear black cotton gloves. So traffic policemen, again another part of the society, and here he is saying, or he is asking these police people to wear black cotton gloves. So black here indicates something that is negative. It indicates sadness, loss, disappointment, death, etc. So amidst the funeral, a lot of description is going on here. He is asking the world to contribute to this loss, his personal loss or his individual loss. So till the second stanza, he is actually referring to the everyday things we see in our life. Now from third stanza onwards, he is shifting this perspective. Now this is how he begins the third stanza. He was my north, my south, my east and west, my working week and my Sunday rest, my noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. So this is a stanza where we can see that he brings in a lot of cosmic references. Now he talks about his relationship by connecting with the different directions. He was my north, my south, my east, and my west. Which means he is talking about his relationship as a complete relationship. It touches all the corners of the world, which means it was a pure, complete, fulfilled kind of relationship. He was my north, my south, my east, and west. We really do not know who the personality that Auden is talking about. It can be his friend, or sometimes it could be one of the homosexual relationships that he had. So maybe it could be something like where the relationship ended. It need not be a death, but it could be the death of a relationship. Now, another analysis suggests that this poem was written about a political leader. So the reality is still debatable because we do not know who this person is, but anyway, Auden had a lot of admiration towards this person. And now he says, my working week and my Sunday rest. So that completes the entire days in a week. My noon, my midnight, my talk, my song. So that again is all inclusive. It includes right from morning till night, my talk and my song. I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. So here he is actually describing how much this man meant to him. Or in other words, he is describing the magnitude of his love. So here comes another figure of speech, that is synecdoche. Now synecdoche is a figure of speech in which a part is made to represent the whole. For example, when we say England lost by 6 wickets, we actually know that it is not just England, but it is the English cricket team. So one part stands for the entire thing. This is known as synecdoche. So here he is actually using different directions to speak about his complete relationship. And in the last line, I thought that love would last forever. I was wrong. So he's bringing in a universal theme. And sometimes it is said that love never knows its death until the hour of separation. Because only when you get separated from the other person, you realize the magnitude or the depth of your relationship. So this kind of a universal theme is also established here. And he says that he never thought that this would come to an end. He says he believed that love would last forever, and I was wrong. So a universal statement is also established here. So a general theory about life is indicated here. So moving on, the stars are not wanted now, put out every one, pack up the moon and dismantle the sun. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood, for nothing now can ever come to any good. So again the rhyme scheme continues, one, sun, wood, good. So this is the last stanza and he makes it very clear that nothing can soothe him. So there is extreme exaggeration which is going on here. He's asking the nature to join with his grief, and his attitudes towards nature is also very arrogant. Now he says the stars are not wanted now. Now stars are always equated with something that is good, happiness, positive energy, etc. But now he says the stars are not wanted here. Put out every one. So it's just like he's talking about stars, just like some candlelight. He says put out each and every star in the sky. He doesn't want to see these stars. Pack up the moon. So it looks as if this is very easy to do these things. He says just pack up the moon, send it back to some other locations because I don't want a moon with me, and dismantle the sun. So dismantling is actually taking the different parts of an equipment outside. So sometimes when you order things online, you get it in different forms, in a dismantled pattern, and then you have to fix it back. So just like that, he says it in a very simple way, dismantle the sun. Dismantle the sun, pack up the moon, throw these natural things away. I don't want to see any of these things. Pour away the ocean and sweep up the wood. So take the entire water out of the ocean, and when there is no more drops left, it is no more considered as an ocean. So sweep up the wood. So wood here can be the forest region or a thickly or densely rich area with trees and plants. Now he says sweep up the wood, clear it off. I don't want to see that, for nothing now can ever come to any good. So however beautiful these things are, however natural these things are, I will not be able to enjoy these things again in my life. So this actually speaks about his strong, deep relationship with his beloved. So whoever it may be or whoever it might be, his strong relationship is described here. And when the poem comes to an end, his grief has not come to an end. So we realize that his grief is continuing even when the poem comes to an end. So this is how the poet stops the poem, and there is a great message that he is giving to his audience, his readers, and the message is that the world will not wait for individual grief or individual loss. The world will continue to move on, the society will continue to move on, and the only option is to overcome this loss and grief, because no one is going to weep along with you in a continuous way. So this is a general universal statement that he is trying to give out to his readers. So with this we come to the end of the poem. So moving on to a few questions. Now these are some of the questions you can expect from the poem. The impact of the poem as an expression of disappointment and loss. Question number 2, symbolic representation within the poem. Number 3, the poem as a modernist writing. Number 4, how does the poet connect his individual loss with the society? Again, how is death treated in the poem? And finally, the poem is rich with hyperboles. Explain. So with this we come to the end of this session. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for your patient listening. If you have got any queries or if you need more assistance, please do not hesitate to connect with me in my email ID. So thank you very much. Thank you.